Hello, I am Ulysses S. Grant, 18th President of the United States and a proud Ohio native. And you find me here visiting the home in which I grew up from 1823 to 1839. That was a long time ago, wasn't it? But you may come here and visit, as I do, as frequently as possible. You may even run into me when you come here. But I should like you to visit several places in this area. I was born at Point Pleasant, Ohio, on the banks of the Ohio River. The house in which I was born, delivered by good old Dr. Rogers, is still there to this day. And come here to Georgetown, just a few miles away. Here you may tour and visit my home here. Across the road you may see the tannery that my father had built, and just a few blocks away there is the Dutch Hill School. It's a one-room schoolhouse. We called them blab schools because in those days everybody recited their lessons aloud, all 12 grades in one room, and it sounded like a lot of people blabbing, so they were affectionately known as blab schools. I spent 7 years of schooling there and got a very sound basic education, as you are getting in your school. But please come and visit the school where I went my first 7 years of schooling at Dutch Hill. Also here in Georgetown are two life-size statues of myself, one out at the Veterans Home and one down next to Court Square. In fact, it's one of only two places in the United States where there are two life-size statues of myself. There's much to see here in Georgetown if you'll come and visit. I thoroughly enjoyed living here in this home. Father had it built in 1822 to 23, and I moved in, as I said, when I was 11 months old. I don't remember the move, but I do remember growing up here. I had 5 brothers and sisters, all of whom were born in this home. In fact, my last sibling, my youngest sister, was born after I had left in 1839 to go to the United States Military Academy. I believe you may know it as West Point. But my mother at this fireplace fixed many, many pleasant meals, and we ate all of our meals in this room. Father was a well-to-do tannery merchant and had a delivery business, had a farm. Father did very well for himself and was a self-educated man. My mother was a devoted wife, and her job was in this house, cooking at this fireplace and raising 6 rambunctious children. We were all really active. A couple of tales that I would like you to know that you may look for when you come to visit. The first is my name. My name, as you know me, and I introduced myself, Ulysses S. Grant, is not really my name. I was born Hiram Ulysses Grant. Well, you can see from those initials, HUG, that I might get a lot of teasing when I went to the United States Military Academy. When I went to the academy, because of a clerical error, I was listed as Ulysses S. Grant. No, not Ulysses Simpson, but Ulysses S. Grant. And since it was an official document, I wasn't able to get it changed. So I like to refer to Ulysses S. Grant as my Army issued name. But mother and father christened me Hiram Ulysses Grant. I liked the name Ulysses, but I preferred my nickname Liss. Everybody called me Liss. Sometimes people would call me Useless. So you can see why I didn't care much for the name Ulysses once I was able to be called Liss. But I grew up here. I was very independent. I I had a lot of, father called it spunk and moxie. I was a quiet child. In fact, I was felt to be a little slow because I didn't talk much. I always felt if you didn't have anything to say, don't say it. So I didn't talk a lot. I was a small child, known to be quiet but very strong and very intelligent. I didn't have to be told what to do. I always looked for something to do. I stayed busy. I was independent at an early age, making runs for my father, driving wagons with horses as young as age 8 and 9 years old. I was breaking horses for farmers in the local area here in Brown County and Clermont County at that young age, 9, 10 years old. When I was 12, 13, 14, I was making trips as far away as Louisville, Kentucky. So I displayed initiative and intelligence. I didn't have to be told to do something twice. Tell me what you needed done and I'd get it done. As far as initiative is concerned and analyzing what I've got at hand to work with, I'd like to tell you about the large stone that Dave and I moved. But you should know Dave is a horse, because we were busy. My father was a contractor as well, building things here in town, and they were building a new jail, cutting logs and felling trees and building the jail. Dave was one of the horses. I had raised enough money to buy Dave myself, and I'm about 12 years old at this time. One of the local physicians, very prominent doctor, had a fine new home built with a large front porch. I think he called it a veranda, fancy name, big front porch. And he wanted a big front step. He found a large rock down by White Oak Creek that was about 10 feet long, about 4 feet wide, and about a foot deep. Weighs might near 4,000 pounds, 3,800 pounds. The men in town with these work crews and construction teams weren't able to move it. I put my mind to it, and Dave and me moved that huge stone from White Oak Creek, some half-mile away or so, to the doctor's home, where it's sat for many years. Now it's here at my home, and I should like you to find it when you come here to visit. It's not hard to find. The last thing I'd like to tell you would be about my name. I was 6 weeks old before I got a name, because I'm the first of a new generation. My mother and father felt it was very important that I have just the right name. So there was a family meeting held after 6 weeks, and I'm told my name was drawn out of a hat because no one could decide what to name me. Between my mother, my father, my grandmother and grandfather, my aunts and uncles, there couldn't be any agreement. So my grandfather suggested we draw names out of a hat, and that's how I became Hiram Ulysses Grant. My nickname was Liz. People who were good friends and family members called me Liz. My father wanted me to go to the United States Military Academy, and he sought the appointment for me without my knowledge. And one evening in this very room, December of 1838, I was 16 years old, and my family is sitting around the table here eating supper, and my father said, "Well, Liz, I think you've got it." Now, I wasn't expecting anything of moment. I wasn't expecting anything, any big announcement. So I said, through a mouthful of food, "Got what?" And Father said, "Why, the appointment to the United States Military Academy." And my initial response was, "I won't go," because I wanted nothing to do with the military. And Father looked at me across the table and said, "I think you will." And by this time, I've remembered myself. And I said, "Well, If you think I will, then I think I will. And I was off in another couple of months to the United States Military Academy and began the career that ultimately led to the White House, and with 2 terms as the 18th President of the United States. But I always come here. I love to come to this home here in Georgetown, Ohio, and sit beside this fireplace and reflect. That's deep thinking. But to reflect on what a pleasant time I had here in this home. Another treat for you if you come is you can come and see me when I was 12 years old, and I'll even talk to you. There's a wondrous addition to my home since I left, and it shows me at age 12 about the time that Dave and I moved that 2-ton rock all by ourselves. So there's much to see if you'll come to Georgetown, Ohio, and visit my hometown and the school where I attended school for 7 years, the tannery across the street, the big rock that Dave and I moved, and I hope that you'll do so in your journey toward visiting and coming to know all of the Ohio presidents. I'd like to see you here. Now, I must be about my business, and I hope to visit you sometime when you come calling to visit me.